Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Lonergan. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Whitewater Ski Resort. I'm going to be your host for this Q&A. I'm going to be kind of going back and forth between questions that are asked via the chat window. If you would like to ask questions, please do so via writing in the chat. That's in the bottom right for everyone. If for whatever reason we run out of time or we're unable to answer your question, we're going to do our best to answer them via our Real Talk videos, which we release every Tuesday, as well as on our FAQ page. As I said, my name is Peter Lonergan. I'm joined by Rebecca Hornung, who is our Indoor Operations Manager, and Kirk Jensen, who's going to kick things off, who is our General Manager.
Thanks, Peter. I just want to thank everyone for their patience and support as we make the adjustments at the resort here to ensure the safest environment for our guests and our staff. So thank you. So the first question I think we received was with regards to from an actual question from a guest, just wondering about lift lines and queue times, as well as the plan for solo riders. So yes, at this time, we can't really actually say what lift lines are going to look like exactly, but obviously there's going to be some changes. We're still planning on having an option for single lineups on all three aerial lifts, and however, we do expect to see longer lift lines. We expect to see less crowding, so it's you know, the wait times might be slightly longer, but with overall capacity reduced at the resort, we're probably not going to see a huge impact in the wait times. And of course, masks will be required both in the lift lines and on the lifts. So that will help when there's any lack of social distancing, if that does take place.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kirk. Another question we got online, which has been a big one we've heard a lot about, and I'll let Rebecca tackle this one, is what is the lodge capacity going to be at the resort?
Yes, good question. We're definitely hearing lots of that in the office. So we actually, the management team has spent some time up at the resort moving tables around, looking at options to maximize the amount of tables that we can have while abiding by the government regulations of social distancing between the tables. We're looking like we could be potentially over 50%, but definitely we're around that 50% mark at this time. So we will be asking people to limit their time in the lodge just because there will be more seating for everyone in there.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Rebecca. And we'll keep going with some of the questions that are online at this time. We did get a few from social media, which were interesting, and ones that were, I think, a lot of people have asked about as well. And one of those that back to Rebecca is that we got is, what will the kitty corner look like this year? And we're wondering if parents with tiny humans will be able to hang out in the lodge or trade on and off.
Yeah, very good question. And we have actually been working really hard to try and communicate this. We're really excited to be able to offer the parent pass this year to those parents with 6 and under. What do they call them, Peter? With little ones?
Yes, little people.
Yeah, little tykes. But with the limited lodge capacity, we are trying to communicate that we're asking people not to settle into the lodge. Like I said, we'll be trying to move people through as quick as we can so that more people can warm up and use the lodge space as they require. So we are trying to communicate that. So if you are looking to do a trade-off, a great opportunity to make your car your home base, or maybe in town as well, and do the trade-off that way. Hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect. And we'll stick with you, Rebecca, on this one as well. This question comes in as, hi, I was just reading the FAQ page. I see pre-bookings for day passes, no limit on season passes, and a status board at the bottom of the hill. How are season pass sales going? Are you expecting regular season, which could mean crowds and long lift lines, or are you expecting a fairly quiet season compared to normal?
I love this question. Kirk kind of alluded to it, but I think that everyone's guess is as good as ours. I mean, the summer activities that we've seen kind of uptick is those ones that are outdoors. That being said, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of uncertainties on how people are thinking and what they're thinking moving into the winter. In regards to our pass sales, we really never know until our early bird deadline what our pass sales look like. So that is why you're hearing a lot of our decision making about, for example, our discounted lift tickets and such, really kind of weighing after that. So we have an idea. As we communicated before, prioritizing our pass holders is key. So once we kind of know what that base looks like, we can start making some better decisions. If that makes sense. Did I answer all those questions?
So I think we'll cover them off if not, but there's a couple more coming your way.
I was going to say, like, people can put questions in the chat box. I mean, I don't know if they're scared, but that's what we're here for. So please ask some questions.
All right, we'll continue on. We still did get a bunch from social, so we'll keep covering them off and see if it answers more people's questions. This is one that's come up, I think, a lot from people worried about if OnHill staff do test positive. So the question is, what happens if one of your OnHill staff does test positive? And will other staff who have been in close contact be required to self-isolate, risking the hill closing due to a lack of staff?
Yeah, I can start on this, and then Kirk, you can jump in if I miss anything. We've definitely been considering that a lot, both in regards to our onboarding processes straight through our staffing, like our hiring this season. So one thing that we will be looking at doing is building work pods, or some people call them quarantines. How fun is that? So basically it'll be the same shifts that happen consistently, so that you're eliminating any cross exposure through your team. So that is one thing that we're going to be doing, so that we kind of keep the same team working the same shifts, so that there's minimal exposure between the teams. We're also looking at increasing our hiring and increasing our hiring to more part-time staff, so that we have a more flexible workforce. If there is absenteeism, we are very prepared that there will be some absenteeism, because we're going to be very strong in our messaging with our staff that if they have any symptoms, as you know, and we're all very commonly heard now, is that they were going to be asked to stay at home. And we've actually developed and in the process of kind of fine-tuning a questionnaire that WorkSafe has basically put in place, but asking them prior to them leaving their homes, so that they don't show up with any symptoms, that we kind of catch them before they leave home if they aren't feeling well. And I guess the third thing that we're kind of doing, maybe it was the fourth, I can't remember, but basically is training, cross-training. So we're asking each team member that joins us this year to cross-train in 2 different departments. That way, again, it just makes our workforce a little bit more flexible and allows us to cover any absenteeism we may see. Kirk, I don't know if I missed anything on that.
No, I think that covers it, unless there's clarity needed there. Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, Kirk, you can stay on. We got a question from Diana here, and the question is there going to be a specific kind of mask required when in lift lines or in the lodge?
Well, at this time, we're taking guidance from health authorities and the Center for Disease Control as far as mask, what's acceptable, what's not. So, more information may come out on that as we get closer to opening. At this time, I think they're advising a minimum 2 or 3 layer face coverings. So, there's many suppliers out there that are racing to produce, ski masks, buffs, and neck tubes, so forth, that would comply with this. So we see that, understand that these are probably going to be widely available, and as long as folks are covered up, then they likely won't see an issue.
Perfect. And then she followed up with, can I just wear a buff?
A buff, yes. If it's a single layer, then you would most likely be required to double it up. As you know, single layer face coverings are somewhat counterproductive with the fine droplets. So according to the health authority, so we're sticking with their advice and recommending minimum 2 layers.
Perfect. And a question from Katie Simpson to Kirk as well. You'll probably take this one. You may have covered this, but will there be extra washrooms outside for people that just want to come up and ski for a few hours and don't want to use the day lodge to avoid the big crowds?
Yes, that's true. We have just finalizing the locations for additional outdoor washroom spaces. One is going to be adjacent to the, well, basically between the day lodge and the skier services lodge. And that'll be a washroom unit there with, I believe it's going to have a women's and a men's stall in there that's going to be plumbed directly into our septic tank. And then we're going to have an additional few washrooms over near parking lot 2, which is the closest parking lot towards Summit Chair, where we're going to have a food and beverage concession and hopefully a warming temporary structure that would be supported with 3 washrooms over in that location as well.
Perfect. And here's one from Andrea, which I think could be directed at Rebecca. I can see you chuckling over that already. Will there be more places to get poutine?
Such a good question. I'm sure there's not just her wondering that. Already got a smiley face there. Nice. So yeah, we actually are trying to finalize what the menu is in these new food and beverage concessions. I don't know if you saw Real Talk 3.0, but we just ordered them in. So now we're working on what type of equipment we can service with it and what that means for the menu. Poutine is definitely something that we're trying to make work, but producing them is actually quite tricky. But the good news is there will still be poutine available from the cafe. So we will still have grab and go inside the lodge, as well as the Fresh Tracks Cafe Express downstairs in the day lodge too. And we're working on one directional flow so that people just come and get their poutine and get out. Very important question. Thank you.
Perfect. And another one for you, Rebecca, that you can help answer. Tom asks, is there a plan or what is the plan for ski locker access?
That's a really good question too. So we're actually just going to be doing, again, that one directional flow. So whether your locker is on the lower or the bottom floor of the day lodge, or you're on the upstairs or main level, we're going to have one directional flow where you come in the main entrance, and then we're going to ask our guests to come out and then just keep their social distancing. Again, it's going to be quite hard to manage social distancing in the day lodge and with most of Whitewater services, which is why we've come to the required face coverings with all Whitewater operations. Hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect. Back to you, Kirk, for this one. The question is, will lift lines be a single line to maintain social distancing, or will you still have to merge?
So until we finalize that, once our staff get on site here next week to October here to set that up, we're looking at having single lines at each lift, and then we're looking at having a ghost lane between the singles lane and the double, triple, or quad lane, depending on which tier you want, so that families, cohorts, bubbles, people traveling together can still ride together. However, if you're skiing or riding alone, and you don't feel comfortable riding with someone outside your bubble, then you've got the option to ride solo on the Silver King chair or the Glory chair. The Summit chair would likely put one on each end with 2 empty seats in the middle for social distancing on that quad. So, and that's where we're currently at and how it's going to look. You know, they did things differently down in New Zealand, and so, you know, we'll see what happens with health regulations and what gets, what guidelines we have to follow. We're hoping with masks and being outdoors that we'll be able to increase our capacity. However, at this point in time, that's our plan.
Perfect. And we'll go back to one that we received on social media yesterday. And the question is, and Kirk, I think you can answer this one. It's on a COVID note, it seems like aerosol rather than surface transmission is a key influencer. Can you ventilate the lodge better?
Yeah, so good question. So 2 years ago, we upgraded a lot of our heating in the lodge when we did the lower floor, the ground floor renovation. And we put in a brand new makeup air exchange unit. So We've got good air exchange throughout the lower level of the day lodge. And the upstairs, we've got ceiling fans, as well as those doors are almost revolving continuously, creating good airflow in the lodge as well. And on milder days, we will likely be opening the doors on the lodge to let that natural airflow come to the lodge, as long as it's comfortable for guests inside.
Perfect. Does anyone have any other questions? Please feel free to write in. Oh, perfect. Perfect timing. Here's one. Yes. For you, Rebecca, it's my 5-year-old daughter is lazy. She'll do a couple runs and want to come in the lounge and snack in the lodge while she waits for her dad and bro. Am I going to have to limit the time I'm allowed to lounge in the lodge? And will I get the boot if it's over capacity?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I guess that's what I was trying to speak to before. We are asking people to utilize their vehicle and other alternative spaces to keep warm. We haven't really finalized what our outdoor warm spaces will look like. It sounds like something really easy, just throw up a tent. But with the snow load that we see at the ski hill, it's quite challenging to find something that is, and I mean, Kirk, you can add anything you want to this, that is going to be able to be safe for our guests to use. So we will be asking our guests to limit the time in the day lodge just for that reason, so that, for example, your 5-year-old daughter, maybe her friend wants to come in and warm up too. So just so that we can get more people through the lodge in warm space as possible. As soon as we do have any more details on what we can offer outside the new food and beverage grab and go and the washrooms, we'll absolutely be letting you know. Just lots of change happening. I know, Kirk, if you want to add anything to that.
Well, other than, we have set, seating capacities in the different areas of the day lodge based on the different areas upstairs and downstairs. And so we have a good sense of what our capacity is in the day lodge, and we will be monitoring that based on those sort of room occupancy levels that we've set based on the seating and the social distancing. So if we are getting at a point where we are nearing or at capacity, our new capacity, then we will be restricting access into the lodge until guests do leave. So that's why we're encouraging guests to only use it as much as they need to, and then let others enjoy it as well to warm up and have a bite.
All right, sticking with a capacity question for you, Kirk, is the hill has a max capacity due to parking. Will that still be the max capacity, or will there be a set number of skiers on the hill? And following that up, there's another subsequent question as well. There could be more cars being used and less ride sharing.
So yeah, obviously with parking, we are going to look at not trying to pack the vehicles in, as tightly as we can. We're going to try and allow for a little bit more comfortable spacing, trying to educate our guests to wait for others to exit their vehicle and leave before they, get out of their vehicles. So we're anticipating, about a 20% reduction in parking. We do have ample parking for the busiest days, and we've probably only surpassed that by 10 or 20 cars, literally 3 or 4 times a year in the last couple of years. So, I think with carpooling, for those families that carpool and want to park HOV, and those that can take the shuttle, and with managing our, with our skier visits that we see with our pass holders, even on an average year, we generally don't see near our capacity with just pass holders. It's the day ticket travelers that tend to push that over the top. If the conditions and the stars align, where it's a weekend and a powder day, for example, then that can be an issue. But we're not anticipating that as much due to less, walk-up traffic with pre-purchase tickets. People won't be able to come up unless they have a ticket. So we're going to manage that by our historical numbers based on what we've seen historically, midweek, weekends. Of course, based on the weather conditions in the forecast, we're going to be, setting a predetermined amount of day tickets so that we don't run into a capacity issue with parking and at the resort in general.
Perfect. And Rebecca, I know you touched on the outdoor warming areas, and kind of a question / statement came in. How about propane fire pits or logs around the base? Could be used all around the hill.
Right, Nola? I'm with you. Yeah. No, we actually are looking at that exactly in terms of propane fire pits. Actually, Kirk was following up on one source today that said the earliest they could get those in was January. So we're looking at another option. Apparently, they're all the rage this winter. But yeah, we'll definitely have something. And we're looking to make a little space both near lot 2, where we're going to have that grab and go food and beverage and washrooms, as well as in the base area off the bar deck, just to extend kind of that experience as well. So we're definitely going to have something for you to warm by. Just don't know exactly what it'll look like yet.
Perfect. And I know this one's close to your heart, Rebecca, as you've worked on so many of these events for so many years, but a question came of so many great events. What can be hosted this year?
Ooh, that's a really good one. So we're definitely not putting on any of the, I would say we've minimized our events calendar. And Peter, I mean, you might even know he'll speak better than this, but yeah, we've minimized our events calendar. Like, for example, Cold Smoke, that's kind of been one that's near and dear to our heart that definitely draws a lot of people up to the resort. So we're looking at restructuring that. So maybe it isn't a gathering intensified over a weekend. Maybe we could spread it out. So we haven't really gotten to finalizing all of those details in terms of our events. We still have on the calendar the free ski competition. Again, we are still 2 months out of operations. So there's a lot of people that are just kind of getting to figuring those things out, like the IFSA. They've just kind of reached out and said what their predictions are in terms of the free skiing competition. So there's still a lot of information coming around. But basically what I could say, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the ones that are kind of not intense gatherings that still celebrates our community, we still want to try and have those just to have some fun vibe around the resort and basically in general, but probably you won't see those kind of bigger ones like Cold Smoke operate in the same way. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got that right. I mean, we love the events that we hold, and we're going to do everything we can to continue to hold them safely. So they just maybe change a bit or modified a bit, but we're looking forward to kind of doing what we can and bring the community together.
Celebrate winter.
And for you, Kirk, this is one that came in from Sophia. It says, will there be any changes to the shuttle operation this year?
Yes, so we've purchased a new shuttle this year. So now we'll have 2 all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive shuttles. One new last year and a new one this year. So still be running 2 shuttles daily, and we're anticipating to run at 50% capacity to respect some social distancing, as well as face coverings will be required. So, and that's also pre-booking, online booking, as was initiated last year. So we'll be carrying that on again. So when it's full, you'll know ahead of time, or if there's space, you'll be able to get on.
Perfect. And another one for you, Kirk, from Paul says, or asks, from a touring point of view, do you think any changes will take place?
Yes, although that's yet to be determined until we see how our early bird pass sales go. We'll let out more information on those offerings. However, pass holders that want to go backcountry skiing, again, you know, the backcountry is, it's not closed. It's at your own risk, enter at your own risk, and nothing's going to change there. Pass holders are still obviously advised to have, you know, proper equipment, training, and knowledge, and a partner. And we're going to continue to promote that, as well as our education that we offer at the resort here, and try to promote best practices and you know, responsible traveling in the backcountry. So hopefully that answers your question.
And another one for you from Al asks, can we bring our own propane fire pits up?
Yes, I would say so. And we encourage people to do that, as well as their own, if they've got their own, you know, 10 by 10 tents that they take camping. You know, they're welcome once we have our skiways next to the parking lots established, and folks want to go back to their car and get their lunch. And if it's a nice day, they want to put up a tent, and or if it's snowing and they want to get under their own tent and have a fire pit, then we're encouraging that for sure. And you know, obviously the weather plays a factor there, winds and snow. We're in a mountain environment, so it's not always practical to put up those tents. However, we are encouraging people to do so, and fire pits would be welcome. We're
Yes,
planning
Al,
on
go grab your poutine inside and take it to your fire pit.
and I think I saw another question earlier about that propane fire pits. We are planning on having multiple propane fire pits at our outdoor, you know, food and beverage locations to offer additional heat outside that people want to access. So hopefully that helps as well.
Perfect. And one for you, Rebecca. Will the Hill turn away customers with cold, flu, or COVID symptoms?
It's a very good question. I think, is that Diane? Yeah, so basically we're gonna have in all of our messaging is that same as you see in most businesses, that if you have any cold or flu symptoms, please do not visit the resort. So obviously our pass holders will be asking that of them, but in any ticket purchase that is pre-purchased online, we'll be obviously communicating that message as well. We're not gonna have the capacity to check every single guest that comes up to the resort. We aren't interior health, and we unfortunately won't be able to kind of police that individually, but we will definitely be making sure that's a strong part of our messaging. But that is also why we have the face coverings and we haven't talked about this, but we'll obviously have increased sanitization at the resort. We're going to be bringing on day janitors to help make sure that we are sanitizing high touch locations and washrooms to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that our guests are safe. So hopefully that answers your question there. And Kirk, feel free to add anything if I missed something.
No, I think that's one of the first things you'll see when you go to our what to expect and facts is just that. If you don't feel well, stay at home. Or if you have any of those symptoms, or have anybody that's traveled outside the country and that's near you or in your household, then we request that you do not come up to the hill.
Yeah, and just on that note, Diana actually had thrown in there about being smart, and they have some really great messaging at Nelson Community Lake Tourism on basically how to travel smart. And we'll obviously, Peter, I don't know if you've mentioned this yet, I don't think you have, but we're working really closely with them as well as other industry partners to make sure that we're having consistent messaging. Thanks, Diana.
Perfect, Rebecca. I think that seems to be it for questions. Are there any last questions before we end the call, as we're coming up on our half-hour time here? Nope. Perfect.
Can I say one thing?
Of course.
I just Al, he said that appreciation to the team putting on this event. It's definitely crazy. Whitewater really strives itself on personal connections and, you know, stepping a little bit old school. So this is really a different world that we're having a Zoom Q&A, but I think it's great. And I want to thank everyone again for your patience. There's definitely a lot that we're working through, and we're trying our best to communicate. So any feedback that you have, definitely give us a call. And I just kind of want to reiterate, Peter, too, that for Seasons Pass sales, if you haven't purchased your Seasons Pass yet, next Wednesday is the deadline, but we're asking people to do it online or over the phone. We're really trying not to draw crowds into the downtown office. So we're open 8:30 to 5 this Saturday, and then obviously the Sunday would be the only day we're closed. So I don't know if there's anything else, Peter, you wanted to add on that.
No, I just that I know we are hosting this Q&A, but if you do have questions or you want further clarity, you know, we're always there to answer them. Please feel free to email us or call into the office during office hours, and we're happy to tackle them, as well as follow us on social and check out the Real Talks that we release every Tuesday, and we're planning on continuing to do that right through till the start of the year.
We got to get the people skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And we're looking forward to an awesome season. Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.